The night was cold and still, the kind of night where even the stars seemed sharper against the inky blackness of the sky. Across the globe, people huddled in their homes, some around roaring fireplaces, others under thick blankets. The air was heavy, not from the chill, but from something unspoken, a feeling of unease that settled deep in the bones. Every television station, radio frequency, and live stream broadcasted the same thing, an emergency message from NASA. It wasn't the typical bureaucratic announcement or a carefully polished speech from a politician. No, this was something else. This was raw. On screens across Earth, the image of Commander Elaine Carter appeared, her face pale and shadowed under the harsh fluorescent lighting of the International Space Station. Behind her, the familiar interior of the ISS floated in stark silence. Normally buzzing with activity, it was eerily still. Her brown eyes, wide with controlled fear, stared into the camera. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady, but it trembled just enough for the world to notice. "This is Commander Elaine Carter aboard the ISS Earth is Silent." She paused, as though searching for the right words. But there were none. Every signal from ground control has ceased. Satellite communication is gone. Civilian transmissions, radio, television, internet. Everything has stopped. If you can hear this, if anyone can hear this, please respond. There was no response. The transmission wasn't just broadcast to Earth, unknown to most humans. It was also intercepted by alien observers scattered throughout the galaxy. These were the Itten, an ancient species of scholars and explorers who had been studying Earth for centuries. On Europa, one of Jupiter's icy moons, a team of Itten researchers listened in stunned silence as Carter's words echoed through their command center. Arion, the team leader, stood frozen before the holographic display, his tall, lithe frame emanating unease. The Itten were a species of meticulous logic and deep intellect, their pale blue skin shimmering under the soft lighting of their laboratory. Yet, in this moment, even Arion's calm demeanor cracked. "Play it again," he ordered, his voice low and strained. The transmission replayed. The same words. The same static-laden silence at the end. "It's not possible," said Myra, the team's xenolinguist, her voice barely above a whisper. "Earth can't just go silent. Their electromagnetic output has been constant for centuries. Even in their darkest times, wars, disasters, they've never stopped broadcasting." Arion nodded slowly, his mind racing. The Itten had been observing Earth since its Bronze Age, fascinated by humanity's unpredictable nature. Over the millennia, they had watched as humans rose and fell, fought and united, created art and waged war. They were chaotic, yes, but also brilliant in ways that no other species in the galaxy could replicate. Their transmissions, radio waves, television signals, digital data, had spread far and wide, creating a patchwork of stories that painted a vivid picture of their world. And now, it was gone. "Run a full-spectrum analysis," Arion ordered. "I want to know if there's any trace of their signal left, even a fragment." The team scrambled into action, their fingers dancing across translucent control panels. Machines hummed and whirred, processing data at lightning speed. The command center was a flurry of activity, but beneath it all was a gnawing sense of dread. The silence from Earth wasn't just unusual, it was unprecedented. Down on Earth, the silence was deafening. In New York City, Times Square, a place usually brimming with life and noise, was eerily quiet. The neon signs still glowed, casting their vibrant colors across empty streets. But their messages were frozen mid-update. A massive digital billboard displayed the headline, "Breaking News." Global communication failure, its text static and unmoving. Elsewhere, the story was the same. In Tokyo, the bustling streets of Shibuya Crossing stood deserted, the traffic lights blinking in vain. In London, Big Ben loomed over an empty Westminster Bridge. Planes were grounded. Trains sat motionless on their tracks, and cars were abandoned in the middle of highways. Yet, There was no sign of chaos. No riots, no fires, no screams. It was as if the entire human race had vanished in an instant. On the ISS, Commander Carter floated in the observation module, her hands gripping the edges of the window as she stared down at Earth. From up here, everything looked normal. The continents were bathed in darkness, their cities glowing faintly like constellations on the surface of the planet. But she knew better. That faint glow was all that remained, a relic of a world that had gone silent. Her mind raced with possibilities. Had there been a global EMP attack, a catastrophic failure of the planet's power grid? But that wouldn't explain the complete loss of all communication, nor the utter stillness of the planet below. She glanced at the small clock on her wrist. It had been 6 hours since the silence began. 6 hours of sending out distress calls. 6 hours of waiting for a response that never came. "Commander," came a voice over her headset. It was Lieutenant Marcus Lynn, one of the 3 other astronauts aboard the ISS Anything. Carter shook her head, even though Marcus couldn't see her. Nothing. No signals, no activity. It's like the planet just stopped. There was a long pause. When Marcus spoke again, his voice was heavy. "Do you think it's over? Humanity, Carter closed her eyes, her heart sinking. She didn't want to say it out loud, didn't want to give voice to the terrible thought that had been clawing at the edges of her mind. But she couldn't lie to her crew. "I don't know," she admitted, "but we're not giving up. Not yet." On Europa, the INS analysis was complete. The results were grim. "There's nothing," said Myra, her voice trembling. "No signals, no thermal activity, no biosignatures. Earth's electromagnetic field is intact, so it's not a natural disaster. But it's like every human just vanished." Arion stared at the data, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. That's impossible. There would be residual traces. Heat signatures, chemical reactions, something. Life doesn't just disappear. But it had, and the implications were staggering. For centuries, Earth had been a vibrant hub of activity, its signals reaching out into the galaxy like a lighthouse in the dark. Now, that light was gone, and the galaxy was left with a chilling question. If Earth, with all its resilience and ingenuity, could fall silent so suddenly, what did that mean for the rest of them? Arion turned to his team, his expression grim. "We need to send a reconnaissance team. We need to know what happened, and whether it can happen to us." The room fell silent. It was a dangerous mission, perhaps even a suicide mission. But the INN understood the stakes. Earth's silence wasn't just a mystery, it was a warning. And the galaxy was listening. The news of Earth's silence traveled faster than light, sparking waves of alarm across the galaxy. Civilizations that had once dismissed humanity as a chaotic, unpredictable species now found themselves gripped by fear. Earth had been a constant. Its signals a chaotic symphony that permeated the galactic background. Now, that familiar hum was gone, and with it came a profound sense of unease. On Rydok Prime, the Council convenes. Rydok Prime, the capital of the Galactic Council, was a sprawling planet of crystalline spires and luminous cities. The skies glimmered with the faint outlines of massive space stations orbiting the planet, home to hundreds of species that coexisted under the Council's governance. Within the Grand Chamber of Unity, a massive, dome-like structure suspended in the atmosphere, the galaxy's most influential representatives gathered. The chamber, constructed from an iridescent material that shimmered with the colors of the surrounding nebula, buzzed with the sound of urgent conversations. Delegates from across the Milky Way filled the chamber, their forms as varied as the stars themselves. The towering Vorkith, their reptilian frames glinting with scales of gold, stood beside the amorphous gluon, whose bodies shifted and flowed like liquid mercury. Near the center, the Orlanthians, a species of translucent crystalline beings, sat silently, their geometric forms refracting the ambient light into brilliant rainbows. At the head of the assembly stood Kythera, the supreme arbiter of the council, an Orlanthian of immense age and wisdom. Her crystalline body was marked by fractures that glowed faintly, a sign of centuries spent navigating the delicate balance of galactic politics. As the murmurs in the chamber subsided, her voice rang out, clear and resonant. Representatives of the galaxy, she began, her tone grave. We convene today under extraordinary circumstances. As you are all aware, Earth, the home of humanity, has gone silent. The holographic projection above the chamber shifted, displaying an image of the Sol system. The planets glided along their orbits, their trajectories highlighted in shimmering lines of blue and green. But Earth's data stream, normally represented by a web of pulsating signals, was empty, a void. This silence is unprecedented, Kithira continued. For centuries, humanity's signals have been a constant presence. They were loud, chaotic, and often nonsensical, but they were alive. Their absence now raises questions that we cannot ignore. The chamber erupted into debate. The humans have always flirted with disaster, bellowed a Vorkith representative, his deep voice reverberating through the hall. Their obsession with weapons, their reckless experiments. It was only a matter of time before they destroyed themselves. But there are no signs of destruction, countered a delicate insectoid delegate from the Havana system. Her voice clicked and buzzed, but her translator conveyed a tone of urgency. Our probe showed no evidence of nuclear detonation, no planetary catastrophe. The humans didn't destroy themselves. Something else happened. Perhaps this is an isolated incident, suggested a Gluon delegate, their liquid form rippling with uncertainty. A localized anomaly. We should investigate, but there's no need to panic. Arion, who had been sent as the Iden representative, finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. This is no anomaly. Earth's silence is a symptom of something much larger. My team has already dispatched a vessel to investigate, but we must prepare for the possibility that whatever happened to humanity could happen to us. The chamber fell silent at Arion's words. It was a sobering thought, one that many of the delegates had feared but not yet voiced. If Earth's silence was not an isolated event, then the entire galaxy could be at risk. The galactic ripple effect. As the Council deliberated, the ripple effects of Earth's silence spread far and wide. On distant planets, scientific outposts tuned their instruments to the Sol system, searching for any trace of humanity's signals. Their findings only deepened the mystery. On Xyrant, for a planet known for its advanced astrospectral analysis, scientists reported an anomaly, a faint, residual energy signature emanating from Earth. It was unlike anything they had seen before, neither natural nor artificial. The energy was faint, but it carried an unsettling frequency, one that seemed to resonate on a subconscious level. It's almost alive, said Dr. Viren, the lead scientist at the Xyranthian Observatory. As if it's watching us. The discovery sparked panic among Xyranth 4's population. Rumors of an unknown force spreading through the galaxy began to circulate, fueled by the eerie energy signature. Many citizens abandoned their cities and fled to the planet's outer regions, hoping to escape what they feared was an impending doom. On Drelxus, a highly militarized planet on the edge of the galaxy, preparations for war began. The Drelxians, a race of warlike beings with a history of aggressive expansion, saw Earth's silence as a potential threat. Their leader, General Kragath, addressed his people in a broadcast that echoed through the planet's capital city. Earth's silence is a warning, he declared, his voice booming through the crowd. We do not know what forces claimed them, but we will not wait to be its next victim. We will fortify our defenses, arm our fleets, and prepare to strike if necessary. While some rallied behind Kragath's call to arms, others questioned the wisdom of provoking an unknown entity. The Drelxian High Council convened in secret, debating whether their militaristic approach would protect them or doom them. The echo of fear. In the galaxy's outer rim, a nomadic species known as the Trelzan began to experience strange phenomena. The Trelzan were wanderers, traveling aboard massive starships that served as both homes and vessels. Their culture revolved around exploration and storytelling, passing down knowledge from one generation to the next. But after Earth's silence, the Trellzan began to hear whispers. At first, it was subtle, faint, unintelligible murmurs that seemed to emanate from the void of space. But over time, the whispers grew louder, forming coherent words and phrases. They spoke of endings and beginnings, of light fading into darkness. The Trellzan elders, who had seen countless phenomena in their travels, were at a loss. "This is not natural," said Elder Kyra, her voice trembling as she addressed her people. "The whispers, they are not of this world." The whispers began to affect the Trellzan crew, causing paranoia and nightmares. Some reported seeing shadowy figures in the corners of their vision, while others claimed to hear their own voices echoed back to them, distorted and unfamiliar. Desperate for answers, the Trellzan reached out to the Galactic Council, sharing their experiences. When Arion received the report, his heart sank. The whispers matched what his team had begun to experience after recovering the alien artifact from Earth. The implications were clear. Whatever had claimed Earth was now spreading. A call to action. Back in the Grand Chamber of Unity, the debate reached its climax. Kythera raised a crystalline hand, silencing the delegates. "We face an unprecedented crisis," she said, her voice resonating with authority. "Humanity's silence is not an isolated event. Reports from across the galaxy indicate that this phenomenon is spreading. The whispers, the residual energy, they are warnings. We must act before it is too late." She gestured toward the holographic map, which now displayed the galaxy with several highlighted systems. "We will form an investigative coalition, combining our resources and knowledge to uncover the truth. This is not the time for division or panic. This is the time for unity." The delegates murmured their agreement, though fear lingered in their eyes. They knew the risks of confronting the unknown, but they also knew that inaction was not an option. The galaxy's survival depended on understanding what had happened to Earth, and whether they could prevent it from happening to them. As the council adjourned, Arion lingered in the chamber, staring at the holographic map. The silence of Earth weighed heavily on his mind, but it was the whispers that haunted him most. He knew that whatever answers awaited them, they would not come without a cost. And somewhere in the void, the echo stirred. The Eden research vessel Aegis pierced the edge of the Sol system, its sleek, silver frame reflecting the pale glow of distant starlight. Inside, Arion and his team prepared for what lay ahead. The ship's scanners hummed softly, their displays painting a grim picture of the system's eerie stillness. "Initial readings confirmed the absence of significant electromagnetic activity," said Myra, her translucent screen displaying faint, fragmented data streams. "Earth's silence extends across all known communication frequencies. No power grids, no signals. Nothing." Arion, seated in the command chair, stared at the holographic projection of Earth. The planet loomed in front of them, serene and beautiful, its continents wrapped in swirling clouds. Yet its stillness carried an unsettling weight, like a predator lying in wait. "Deploy deep spectrum probes," he ordered. "I want to know everything. Radiation levels, thermal activity, biosignatures." A soft hum filled the bridge as sleek, insect-like probes launched from the Aegis's underbelly. They zipped toward Earth, vanishing into the planet's atmosphere. Moments later, streams of data began pouring into the ship systems. "Radiation levels are normal," reported Kale, the team's chief engineer, his forearms moving deftly across his console. "No signs of nuclear activity or environmental collapse. Atmosphere and water systems are intact. The planet is functional, but lifeless," Myra added grimly. "No signs of human activity. Cities are intact, but there's no movement, no heat signatures. It's as if every living thing just disappeared." The team exchanged uneasy glances. Arion leaned forward, his hands clasped tightly. "What about the residual energy signature Xyrant for reported? Can we detect it?" Kale nodded, his amber eyes narrowing as he adjusted the ship's sensors. "It's faint, but it's there emanating from multiple points on the planet's surface. The frequency is unlike anything I've encountered before. What do you mean? Arion pressed. Kale hesitated. It's not static. It's shifting, almost pulsating, like a signal, but it doesn't follow any recognizable pattern. It feels alive. Alive. The word hung in the air like a shadow, casting a chill over the crew. We need to investigate on the ground, Arion said finally. Prepare for descent. Myra, plot a course to one of the energy sources. Kale, ensure all systems are shielded. If this energy is what silenced Earth, I don't want it affecting us. The surface of silence. The Aegis descended through Earth's atmosphere, its shields glowing faintly as they absorbed the friction of entry. The planet's surface came into view, vast stretches of land and sea, eerily pristine. Cities stood frozen in time, their streets empty and their lights dim. Their destination was New York City, where one of the strongest energy readings had been detected. The once bustling metropolis was now a ghost town. Skyscrapers rose like silent sentinels, their glass facades reflecting the gray, overcast sky. The Hudson River flowed lazily, undisturbed by boats or ferries. The Aegis landed in Central Park, its landing strut sinking slightly into the soft earth. As the ship powered down, Arion and his team donned their protective suits. The suits were designed to shield them from environmental hazards, equipped with oxygen systems and communication links. Stay together, Arion instructed as the airlock hissed open. We don't know what we're dealing with. The team stepped onto the surface, their boots crunching against the gravel path. The park was unnaturally quiet. No birds sang, no insects buzzed. Even the wind seemed hesitant, brushing against the leaves in soft, intermittent sighs. This place feels wrong, Myra whispered, her voice trembling slightly over the comms. Kale scanned the area with a handheld device, its screen glowing faintly. The energy signature is strongest near the city center. It's concentrated, but dispersed at the same time, almost like it's woven into the environment. As they moved deeper into the city, the sense of wrongness grew. Cars sat abandoned in the streets, their doors ajar. Storefronts displayed their wares to an audience that no longer existed. A child's bicycle lay on its side, its wheels frozen mid-turn. "Commander," Myra said suddenly, her voice sharp with alarm. "Look at the windows." Arion turned his gaze upward. The windows of the surrounding buildings were reflective, but something about them was off. Instead of their own reflections, the team saw distorted images. Shadowy figures moving unnaturally, their forms twisting and writhing. "What is that?" Kale muttered, his grip tightening on his scanner. "Don't touch anything," Arion ordered. "Whatever this is, it's tied to the energy signature. We need to reach the source, the heart of the signal." The team's path led them to Times Square, the iconic crossroads of the city. The massive digital billboards were frozen, their screens displaying fractured images and garbled text. The air felt heavy, charged with an almost imperceptible vibration. "The energy signature is strongest here," Kale reported, his scanner emitting a low hum. "It's concentrated in the center of the square." Arion approached cautiously, his eyes scanning the surroundings. In the middle of the square stood a structure that hadn't been there before, a massive obsidian monolith, its surface smooth and featureless. The monolith pulsed faintly, emitting a low, rhythmic hum that resonated in their chests. "What is that?" Myra asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Kale's scanner flickered wildly as he approached the monolith. "The energy signature is coming from this thing. It's emitting the same frequency we detected from orbit." Arion stepped closer, his suit's sensors analyzing the monolith. Its surface was unnaturally cold, despite the faint heat signature emanating from within. As he reached out, a sudden wave of static washed over their comms, followed by a voice, a deep, resonant tone that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "You should not have come." The team froze, their eyes darting around the square. Who's there? Arion demanded, his voice steady despite the fear creeping into his chest. The voice ignored his question. Earth is no longer yours. It has been claimed, as will you. Before Arion could respond, the monolith pulsed violently, sending out a shockwave that knocked the team off their feet. The air around them grew thick, distorting their vision and muffling their senses. Through the haze, Arion saw figures emerging, shadowy, humanoid shapes that flickered like static. Their movements were jerky, unnatural, as if they were being controlled by some unseen force. "Fall back!" Arion shouted, pulling Myra to her feet. "Get to the ship." The team scrambled toward the Aegis, but the figures pursued them, their forms shifting and warping. Kale fired a containment device, but the energy passed harmlessly through the creatures, as if they weren't fully there. As they reached the ship, the figures stopped, their heads tilting unnaturally as they stared. The monolith pulsed again, and the voice spoke once more. "The echo is here. It will consume all." The team barely made it aboard the Aegis, the airlock sealing behind them as the engines roared to life. As the ship lifted off, Arion looked down at the city below, its streets now teeming with shadowy figures. "Commander," Myra said, her voice shaking, "what do we do?" Arion's jaw tightened as he stared at the pulsing monolith. "We warn the galaxy. The echo isn't just on Earth. It's spreading. And if we don't stop it, it'll claim everything." The Aegis raced away from Earth, its engines burning bright as it ascended toward the void of space. Inside, Arion and his team struggled to process what they had just witnessed. The memory of the shadowy figures, the pulsing monolith, and the cryptic voice lingered like a stain on their minds. "We've left Earth's orbit," Kale announced, his voice strained. "The ship systems are stable, but something's wrong. I'm detecting faint disruptions in our energy fields." Arion turned sharply. "Disruptions? Are we being followed?" Kale shook his head, his hands moving rapidly over the console. "It's not external. It's internal. The energy signature we detected on Earth. It's faint, but it's aboard the Aegis. Somehow, it latched onto us." The team fell silent, dread seeping into the air. "Commander," Myra said cautiously, "it could be the monolith's doing. That shockwave. Maybe it wasn't just a physical attack. Maybe it implanted something in our systems. Or in us." Arion clenched his fists. "Run a full diagnostic. Scan every part of the ship and every one of us. If the echo has infiltrated the Aegis, we need to find it before it spreads." The first signs. Hours passed as the team conducted their scans. The ship's corridors, once bustling with quiet efficiency, now felt cold and oppressive. The hum of the engine seemed louder, almost invasive, as if the ship itself was alive. Kale was the first to notice the changes. "Commander," he called from the engineering bay, "you need to see this." Arion and Myra hurried to Kale's side. The engineer pointed to one of the monitors, which displayed a map of the ship's energy flow. Several pathways glowed faintly with an unnatural light, pulsating in irregular rhythms. "This isn't normal," Kale explained. "The energy is redirecting itself, creating loops and patterns that don't make sense. It's almost like it's thinking." "Thinking?" Myra echoed, her voice trembling. Kale nodded grimly. "It's similar to the energy signature from the monolith. Whatever we encountered on Earth, it's here and it's adapting." Before Arion could respond, the lights in the engineering bay flickered. A low, resonant hum filled the air, growing louder and louder until it became a deafening roar. The team covered their ears as the sound reverberated through the ship. Then, as suddenly as it began, the noise stopped. "Commander," Myra whispered, pointing to the monitor. "Look." The energy flow on the screen had shifted. The irregular patterns now formed a cohesive design, a spiral, spinning endlessly like a vortex. "It's communicating," Kale said, his voice barely audible. Arion's gaze hardened. "If it's communicating, it can hear us." Open a channel. Kale hesitated but obeyed, activating the ship's communication system. Channel open. This is Commander Arion of the Aegis, Arion said firmly. Who or what are you? Why have you come aboard our ship? For a moment, there was silence. Then, a voice emerged from the speakers, a deep, echoing tone that sent shivers down their spines. We are the echo. We are the end and the beginning. Arion's jaw tightened. What do you want? To consume. To evolve. To become. The voice was calm, almost indifferent, as if it saw the team as mere insects beneath its notice. Arion stepped closer to the console. Why Earth? Why humanity? They reached too far. Their curiosity unsealed the gate. They invited us. And now, we are here. The team exchanged uneasy glances. Humanity had always been reckless, pushing the boundaries of science and exploration. But what had they done to invite this entity? Can you be stopped? Arion demanded. The voice paused, as if considering the question. Then it replied, No, desperate measures. The lights flickered again, and the ship shuddered violently. Alarms blared as systems began failing one by one. Commander, Kale shouted, the echo is spreading through the ship systems. If we don't stop it, it will take control of everything. Arion's mind raced. Can we isolate it? Kale shook his head. Not without shutting down the entire ship. Even then, it might already be embedded too deeply. Myra's voice cut through the chaos. What if we force it out? If we overload the ship's core, we might be able to create an energy pulse strong enough to disrupt its hold. That could destroy the Aegis, Kale warned. It's better than letting the echo spread unchecked, Myra countered. Arion made his decision. Do it. Prepare the core for an overload. Kale, get the escape pods ready. The core overload. The team worked frantically, each second feeling like an eternity. The echo's presence grew stronger, manifesting as shadowy figures that flickered in and out of existence within the ship's corridors. Their distorted forms moved silently, their eyeless faces turned toward the crew as if watching, waiting. Kale finished configuring the core. It's ready. Once I activate the sequence, we'll have 5 minutes to evacuate. Do it, Arion ordered. Kale pressed a series of buttons, and the ship's core began to glow, its energy building to a dangerous level. Alarms blared, and red lights bathed the corridors in an ominous glow. Move! Arion shouted, leading the team toward the escape pods. As they ran, the echo's figures grew more aggressive, their forms solidifying. One reached out toward Myra, its hand passing through her suit and sending a shockwave of cold through her body. She stumbled, but Arion caught her, pulling her forward. Don't stop, he urged. The team reached the escape pods and quickly boarded. Arion was the last to enter, his gaze lingering on the ship that had been their home. Goodbye, Aegis, he muttered before sealing the pod. The pulse. The escape pods launched just as the Aegis's core reached critical mass. From a safe distance, the team watched as the ship exploded in a brilliant burst of light, the energy pulse rippling outward like a shockwave. The echo's shadowy figures dissolved in the light, their forms disintegrating into nothingness. For a moment, the team allowed themselves to hope. But as the light faded, Arion noticed something in the distance, a faint, pulsating glow where the Aegis had been. The spiral pattern from the ship systems appeared, larger and more intricate than before. It survived, Myra whispered, her voice filled with despair. Arion's heart sank. The echo wasn't just energy, it was something more, something that couldn't be destroyed by conventional means. We need to warn the Council, he said, his voice heavy. The echo isn't just a threat to Earth, it's a threat to all of us. And it's only just beginning. As the escape pods drifted into the void, the faint glow of the echo lingered behind them, a reminder of the darkness that now loomed over the galaxy. The escape pods of the Aegis drifted silently toward the nearest jump beacon, a structure designed to facilitate interstellar travel. The crew sat in stunned silence, their faces illuminated by the cold glow of their consoles. Behind them, the faint pulsating light of the echo remained, a chilling reminder of what they had unleashed. Arion leaned forward in his seat, his hands gripping the console tightly. He couldn't shake the image of the shadowy figures, the cold and calculating voice of the echo, or the spiral of energy that now pulsed like a heartbeat in the void. "We failed," Myra said quietly, her voice trembling. "We destroyed the Aegis, and it didn't make a difference. The echo is still out there." "We bought time," Arion replied, though his voice betrayed his doubt. "We may not have destroyed it, but we slowed it down. That has to count for something." Kale, seated next to him, shook his head. "Time won't mean much if we can't figure out how to stop it. The echo adapts. Every second we waste, it grows stronger." Arion nodded grimly. "Then we make those seconds count. The Council needs to know what we've encountered. They need to prepare. A warning to the galaxy." The escape pods docked at a small outpost orbiting Neptune, where the crew quickly transmitted a distress signal to the Galactic Council. Within hours, a Council warship arrived, its towering hull bristling with weapons and scanning arrays. Arion and his team were escorted to the ship's command center, where they were met by Counselor Zera, a towering figure with silver skin and piercing violet eyes. "Commander Arion," Zera said, her tone cold and measured, "your message was vague but alarming. You claim Earth has fallen, yet you provide no proof. Explain yourself." Arion stood at attention, his voice steady despite the weight of his words. "Earth hasn't just fallen. It's been consumed. We encountered an entity calling itself the Echo, a force unlike anything we've seen. It eradicated all life on Earth and has begun spreading through our systems." Zera's eyes narrowed. "The Echo? What is it? A weapon? A plague?" Arion hesitated. "We don't know. It's intelligent, adaptable, and it spreads through energy systems, infecting and controlling anything it touches. It spoke to us, claimed to be the end and the beginning. Whatever it is, it's dangerous, and it's growing." Zera turned to her officers, her expression grim. "Have our deep space sensors detected anything unusual near Earth?" An officer nodded. "We've picked up faint energy readings consistent with what Commander Arion described. An anomalous signal spreading outward from Earth. It's moving slowly, but it's expanding." Zera's gaze returned to Arion. "If what you say is true, this could threaten the entire galaxy. We must act swiftly. Do you have any insights into how to combat this echo?" Arion exchanged glances with his team. "We attempted to disrupt it with an energy overload. It destroyed our ship but didn't stop the echo. Traditional methods won't work. We need to study it. To understand its origins and weaknesses." "Study it?" Zera repeated, her tone incredulous. "You're suggesting we invite this thing into our laboratories?" "We don't have a choice," Kale interjected. "If we don't figure out how it works, it'll outpace us. It's only a matter of time before it finds a way to infect our strongest defenses." Zera considered this, her expression hardening. "Very well. We'll establish a containment unit in the Polaris research station. But if this goes wrong, the blood of every life it takes will be on your hands, Commander." Into the unknown. The Polaris research station, a massive structure orbiting a dying star, was one of the most secure facilities in the galaxy. It housed advanced containment fields, energy dampeners, and the brightest minds from every known species. Arion and his team were granted temporary quarters aboard the station, but rest eluded them. Each moment was consumed by preparations for the Echo's containment and study. Kale worked tirelessly in the station's engineering bay, designing new shielding systems to prevent the Echo from spreading beyond its containment. Myra collaborated with the station's scientists, analyzing the fragments of data they had managed to collect from Earth and the Aegis. Arion, meanwhile, pored over records of Earth's final transmissions, searching for clues about how the Echo had arrived. The answer came in the form of a single, fragmented video log. The recording showed a group of human scientists standing before a massive device, a shimmering gateway of light and metal. "This is Dr. Elena Vargas," the lead scientist said, her voice tinged with excitement and trepidation. "Today, we make history. The quantum aperture will allow us to access dimensions beyond our own, unlocking knowledge and power beyond imagination." The gateway activated, its surface rippling like water. For a moment, there was silence. Then, a shadow emerged, a tendril of darkness that slithered through the air before enveloping the entire room. The recording ended abruptly. "They opened a portal," Arion muttered, his stomach sinking. "They reached into something they didn't understand, and it reached back." Containment breached. The station scientists managed to isolate a fragment of the echo, capturing it within a powerful containment field. The fragment was small, a swirling mass of darkness that pulsed and shifted like a living thing. For days they studied it, probing it with energy bursts and analyzing its structure. The results were both fascinating and horrifying. "The echo isn't just energy," Myra explained during a briefing. "It's a form of sentient code, part biological, part digital. It can rewrite itself, adapting to any environment or attack. It's alive, but not in any way we've seen before." "What's its purpose?" Zara demanded. "To consume," Myra replied. "It feeds on energy, biological, mechanical, even planetary. The more it consumes, the more it evolves." As the briefing continued, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. "Containment breach in Sector 12. A voice announced over the intercom. Arion and his team raced to the containment chamber, where chaos awaited. The echo fragment had broken free, its swirling mass expanding rapidly. Shadowy tendrils lashed out, consuming everything they touched, machines, walls, even the scientists who had been studying it. "Activate the energy dampeners," Kale shouted. "It's not working," an officer replied. "The echo is overriding our systems." Arion grabbed a plasma rifle, firing at the writhing mass, but the energy was absorbed harmlessly. The echo grew larger, its tendrils reaching toward the station's core. "We have to evacuate," Arion yelled. "If it reaches the core, it'll infect the entire station." A grim realization. The crew and station personnel fled to escape pods as the echo continued its relentless expansion. From the safety of the pods, they watched as the Polaris research station was consumed, its lights flickering before going dark. Arion stared at the wreckage, his heart heavy. "We underestimated it again. The echo can't be contained. It's too powerful." Zara's voice came over the comms. "Commander, this is bigger than any of us. The Council will need to authorize full-scale galactic mobilization. We're at war with something we can't even comprehend." Arion nodded, his gaze fixed on the void where the station had been. "The echo doesn't just want to destroy. It wants to remake the galaxy in its image. And if we can't stop it, it will succeed." As the escape pods drifted toward a nearby fleet, the pulsating spiral of the echo loomed in the distance, a harbinger of the darkness to come.